Hello, heathens. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today, I am doing part one. This is going to be a multi-part series of new releases, hype books. Should you read them? You're a grown-ass adult. You make up your own mind about whether you should read them, whether you should spend your time, effort, money, eyeballs, energy, everything on these books. However, this is my opinion. So this is how I feel about these books. If you're wanting my opinion for some strange reason, or you just want to hear about them, this is the video for you. I have got a whole bunch of books I've read. I've realized that reading new releases when they come out is actually kind of fun because you can join in with the conversation. You kind of know what's going on. You're quite excited about that release. So it makes for a better reading experience. Who knew? Because normally I'm changing my wicked ways. What I do is I buy the book, I put it on the shelf, and then 6 months later I'm like, not really excited about that anymore. So no more. I have changed my ways. I have this stack of books here, which is rather large to talk about today. So that's these ones, some of which you'll know, and maybe some of the ones are not as hyped. And then I also have, you may have spotted this gorgeous book here, Terror at the Gates, by Scarlett Sinclair. I'm halfway through this. I like it. Yeah. And then I have these, including, I'm very excited, the new Jessa Hastings, which I shall get to. But you can see I've got a lot of new releases. So over the next few weeks, I will be posting these videos regularly. So today, on today's agenda, let me get to this. The elephant, or shall we say the vampire, in the room. Everybody and their uncle has been talking about this book. It is Bury Our Bones in the Midnight Soil by V.E. Schwab. I won't go too in-depth because I did wax lyrical about this book, and spoiler, do I think you should read it? Yes. About this in my previous video, but if you don't know, this is billed as toxic lesbian vampires, and it is, but I would say it very much harkens back to the days of Anne Rice's Interview with a Vampire, so epic vampire stories. We start in 1534, 1532, we go through to 2009. We follow these three characters through their lives, through them becoming vampires, transitions, how they're grappling with things, how they grapple with love, immortality, allegiances, friendships. It has a very feminist leaning ideology to it, I think, as well, because particularly in the earlier parts of the centuries, it's how to be a woman and the expectations on that. It is beautiful. Anybody that's ever read V.E. Schwab's writing will know this woman can write. This woman can write, okay? I love V.E. Schwab. I will read anything she writes. I adore all of her series, particularly also like her middle grade series about the ghost hunting family. I recommend that one. But I think this most closely aligns to Addie LaRue. So if you liked Addie LaRue, you'll probably like this one. I think it's amazing. Easy 5 stars. Do I think you should read it? Yes, if you love vampires, if you love beautiful writing, if you want your heart ripped out, if you want to think, all of those things. I just think it's gorgeous, and I hugely recommend that one. So with that one out the way, I have got one that I literally, it has just been released. I think this gets released today. And this is Holly Jackson's Not Quite Dead Yet. Now, I was so super excited to read this. I love Holly Jackson's Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. It's super fun. I love Pip, the main character in that series. So I was very excited. This is actually billed as Holly Jackson's first adult thriller novel. And while, yes, I would say the main character, she's 27, Jet is her name. And I think this reads more new adult, and that's not really a criticism of the book because that's kind of the only criticism I have in a way. I think that she reads a little bit more new adult, but she also reminds me very much of Pip, which I like. She's feisty, she's a little bit abrasive, not everybody gets on with her, she doesn't get on with everybody in her hometown, but you know, I like that about her. So this book also, and what I will say, I was so excited, I got it, and I read it in a day. I did like half the book, had dinner, and read the other half also. Isn't that cool? I loved it. So this is an easy 4.5 star thriller book for me, right? Loved it. So what is it about? The setup here is actually very gut-wrenching, and I will say towards the end of the book, I was super, super emotional because Jet, she comes home after the Halloween fair. So this actually starts on the 31st of October. So I would say if you can wait, read it in October because it literally is the 31st of October, and this will be in my recommendations for spooky season. But she comes home, her family hosts the annual Halloween fair, and she's attacked in her family home. She doesn't see who it is. It's from behind. Someone hits her with a hammer 3 times. And her best friend Billy, who lives next door, discovers her because the dog is barking and crying. And he phones 911 and he's like, she isn't actually breathing, I think, when he discovers her. They send her to the hospital. 3 days, I believe, later, she wakes up. And the doctors are like, good news, bad news, you've woken up. Congrats. However, there's a piece of, like, I think, skull in her head that's going to cause a fatal aneurysm. So the doctor says they could try and remove it, but she only has a 10% chance of surviving the surgery. So, yeah. Or she could live for about a week. So she's got like 7 days to live, and then this aneurysm will end her life. She decides to take the 7 days, much to her mother's chagrin. But she's just like, you know what? I haven't done anything in my life of note up until now. Nothing I'm actually proud of. And I relate so heavily to this character. So it's actually making me quite emotional talking about it. And I may as well do something worthwhile with my last 7 days on Earth. I'm going to solve my own murder. And that's what this book is about. She then, with her friend Billy, goes to solve her murder. Who did this to her? And it's kind of this, in a way, also a family drama, secrets and lies, what's happening in this town, what's actually going on, what's going on with her family. And as we go through, it's super fast paced. There was never a second in this book that I was bored or like was like, okay, get on with the story. Not at all. I was breathless all the way through. I thought it was fantastic. I got to the end, and obviously you know what's going to happen. You know that this doesn't have an HEA, right? And it doesn't, and it's so emotional at the end, but it is so good. I think that Holly Jackson did an incredible job, and I want her to continue writing it. I think she can go even more adult, if that makes sense, but I kind of want her to continue writing this because I did not enjoy 5 Survive. Sorry. But this is fantastic. I loved it. Do I think you should read it? If you love a fast-paced thriller, you may guess some of the twists and turns. I did. I guessed some. I didn't guess others. Doesn't matter. It keeps you at the edge of your seat, but also has that emotional impact right from the get-go of what happens. I think this is a great thriller. Super easy read. Like I said, I read this 400-page book in a day. Had the most fun. Definitely think it's worth a read. Definitely think you'll enjoy it if you enjoyed A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, particularly the first book in the series, and if you like Pip as a character. Okay, the next one. Okay, this is the tea, right? It's coffee, but we'll call this the coffee then. Right. So this book, Rose in Chains, Julie Soter. Let's talk about it. Okay. This is super hyped. Certainly on my side of the internet, a lot of people have been talking about this. If you don't know, this book is a traditionally published version of a fanfic, a Dramini fanfic, which again, if you don't know, that is Draco and Hermione. That obviously relates to the Harry Potter universe, shipping Draco and Hermione as the best couple in Harry Potter, and I agree. So I love a good Draco and Hermione ship, right? What Julie Soter did was she took her original fanfic, which is called The Auction, which I will say I've never read, and she had to obviously rework it, take out references to Harry Potter, because you can't reference someone else's story, create a world and a backstory, and then write this book. So I was super excited about this. I couldn't wait. I literally bought and read it when it came out. I will say from the get-go, while I was reading it, I had a super fun time. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the story. It does end on a massive cliffhanger. It is book 1 in a trilogy. It is a very slow burn as well. Nothing much happens at all, except some descriptions. So I'm waiting for book 2 for that. And by that statement, I think I will be reading book 2. However, I do have some other thoughts after sitting with this for a while. So the setup here is that you have Bryony, Hermione, and Tovin, Draco, who are kind of on opposing sides. There's 2 types of magic in this world. You have mind magic and you have heart magic. And Bryony's family is the current ruling family. She's the king. She's the king's daughter. She's the princess. And they do mind magic. Now, the heart magic people have decided to overthrow them There's kind of like a war. They win and Bryony's family loses. And the reference to the auction of the original title is that they then take all the people from Bryony's kind of kingdom and world, and they sell them into an auction to auction them off to families of the opposing side, where these people will act as what they call heartspringers, or they will help enhance the magic of their new owners. Of course, the women that are being auctioned will also perform other responsibilities for their owners, if you get me. So it has a very dark premise from that beginning. I will say, and this is just my personal opinion, when it comes to how dark this is, yes, that subject matter is dark and the implications of that are dark. There's nothing really much that happens on page, and there's nothing that happens between Tovin and Bryony. So someone who reads very dark, like pitch black, dark romance, this wasn't typically dark for me, particularly not on page and between the two main characters. So that's all that I would say around sort of the dark element, in case you're wondering. But the story basically goes from this. So Bryony gets bought by Tovin, and she goes to live with his family at their castle. And then she starts to uncover what's actually happening, the political machinations of this world, what's going on. Obviously, there's going to be a resistance because people are trying to fight back. And she's with Tovin, and she's supposed to be his property, his pet. She's supposed to enhance his magic. He's supposed to want to be with her. But, you know, she realizes there's something kind of more going on here. And then you do get flashbacks to when they were at school, at magic school together, where they're kind of trying to establish the relationship between the two of them. And you realize that Bryony had a crush on Tovin. Now, this is where it starts to lose it for me. So I think Julie Soto created a great world, a great backstory. However, I only bought into the relationship between Bryony and Tovin because I know the original material. So in my head, I had, frankly, Hermione and Draco, right? Because I think there isn't enough establishing of that relationship. You also only get Bryony's point of view and what she likes. She looks at see, I keep saying the other name, Tovin, going, oh, he's hot, you know, but you never get his point of view. He, as a character, is very like, okay, so what is his motivation? Why does he spend so much money on this girl? Why does he even like her? Like, what? I feel like we don't really get that, and we only know it because we know the original material, or at least that's how I felt. So I guess my issue, and I've heard some people kind of having this discussion, is it okay to rip off someone else's storyline? Because let's be totally honest, the reason I was interested in this was because of the original material. Whatever you think of the author now, I know people have their opinions on the Harry Potter series. It is a series that I loved and I continue to love as a book series. And is it okay because you're ripping off that author and that series? What if it was one of your favorite authors? You know what I mean? So I feel like there is an element of, we love it because of the original material. At least that's how I feel. So that's why I'm a little conflicted. So when it comes to, do I think you should read this? If you're like me and you just want to know, you read the auction, you want to know what the trad pup is like, you like that fandom, you like that concept. Like I said, this was a fun book. If you didn't, maybe read it, go in and read it just for what it is and see what you think. But I do have a question mark. This is a, should you read it? Maybe. This is one that you really need to make up your own mind about on a number of levels of whether or not you want to read it. I do want to know how the story continues, so I will read the second book. But just know that there are things that don't necessarily sit that well with me, and maybe I need to think about it a bit more. Let me know in the comments what your opinions are and what your opinions are on fanfic in general, because there's quite a few coming out. I've got another book on deck here, The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy, which was the author of this one have said she's completely reworked it, so she kind of distanced herself, but a lot of the marketing still is Dramini. And then I'm very excited about Cinlin Yu's Alchemized. That's coming out later this year, and again, I'm going to read that. But again, these are all original fanfics that have been reworked. So what are your opinions on that? So we've got the controversy out of the way. Let's do some more controversy. Well, I don't know if this is necessarily controversy. I can't find, so, okay. I had a, bear with. It's on the floor. So, these two books. Now, the reason I'm holding up a bookmark for Shield of Sparrows instead of a book is because I don't have the physical book currently. I read this on audio, and then we have Silver Elite. So the reason I'm holding these up together is because I have a bone to pick with people that keep keep comparing these two books directly. They are not the same book, okay? That is my opinion. I hear, because they came out at the same time-ish, I think, and they both are fantasy books, and the main character here is Wren, and there's a sparrow in this, people seem to want to compare them. I don't think that these are the same kind of fantasy story at all. This is very traditional fantasy. This is kings, queens, princesses, arranged marriage, journey story, clueless FMC. This is more dystopian, more modern. This FMC is tough, kick-ass, knows exactly what's going on. This features the military. This is not kind of princesses. There's no marriage. They're fundamentally different stories, okay? So stop comparing them. Okay. Let's start with Shield of Sparrows then. I will put up a better picture than the bookmark I'm holding. So Shield of Sparrows, like I said, so the concept on this one is you have these kingdoms and you have these monsters, and they're attacking these kingdoms, and the kingdoms need to have form treaties between each other. Like I said, very kind of traditional in that sense. So you have this kingdom where our princess is from. It's her and her older sister. Her older sister has always been the one that has been trained to be the sparrow, trained to be the one that will marry the prince from the other kingdom, will seal the treaty. She will also be a spy for her father and spy on this opposing kingdom. So she's been kind of trained for this role and this duty all her life, and her sister's basically the spare. Does what she wants. The heir and the spare. However, when the prince comes to the kingdom to pick up his bride, he goes, I don't want her. No, I want her. And the younger sister's like, what? Me? No, I don't know. I can't do this. And he's like, no, I want her. So she has to marry the prince. And then, of course, her older sister and her father have zero confidence in her, because they're like, oh, well, bugger, she has to now spy, and they're trying to tell her what she needs to do in that, and she's just like, I have no idea what's going on, this has never been my role. So she is very clueless. That's something that did bug me a little bit about her. Now, I will say, I loved the growth and development. I think she does, as you go through the book, and certainly sort of the last 10% of the book, she kind of starts to get clued into what the machinations are, what the political things are, what's happening. Well, not all of them, but she starts to figure it out. There's also a switcheroo, can I say, with the love interest in this, which again, she's a little clueless about, and I went straight away, oh, yeah, literally straight away. So I think most people will get it. She didn't get it, until she was told. So there is that. And a personal opinion, I like my FMCs a bit more badass, a bit more tough. But like I said, I enjoyed the journey. There is kind of also a travel journey element when, the prince is then taking her to his kingdom and they're getting to know each other. I actually like the love interest in this. I like the real one. I liked how it developed. I found myself sort of quite emotionally invested in some of these characters. I enjoyed my time with this. Is it the best fantasy novel I've ever read? No, I'm not quite at that level with it. But I do want to know what happens. I will certainly read the second book. I enjoyed the audiobook as well. I don't know if I'm going to get a physical copy. I may wait until they're maybe not as expensive or get a second-hand one, because the book itself is very pretty. But I don't know if I need a trophy copy. So I don't know what that says. But I still had a good time. So I think, should you read this? Again, maybe. I think if you want a traditional romantasy romp, it's not particularly taxing, it's fun, it's easy to read, you'll get what's going on straight away, but it was still a good time. 3.75 to 4-star read. Go for it, enjoy it. Audiobook's good too. Then Silver Elite, Danny Francis. I love this book. Okay, so again, there has been a lot of talk about this. First of all, anybody that says it's written by AI, that's rude. I'm sure it's very hard to write a book, because I've tried. A lot of if you guys aren't aware, some of the controversy is Danny Francis has chosen to remain anonymous. This is a pen name, and that is their choice. I respect that choice. I mean, who wants all the crap that goes on the internet thrown at them? So I don't blame the author in any way. There's so many people trying to unmask. Stop. Leave them alone. A lot of authors use pseudonyms. It's something that's been done for centuries, right? Back in the day, women had to pretend to be men to write books, okay? So there you go. But that's just one of the controversies. Obviously, I've talked about the comparisons, but if we talk about Silver Elite on its own, I adored this. So I've recently discovered I have a thing for I like military romance. I like things that are set in like a military world, army, and also army training. I think if you like Fourth Wing, particularly the first book, you will like this, or you may like this. I also think if you like something like Leave Me Behind by K.M. Marinova, which I adored, kind of that military aspect, or Blood of My Monster, Lorena Kent, you've got that military aspect in here as well. I really love this. This has a dystopian-ish world where you have people with mind powers, who are the mods and then the regulars. And the government and the army are trying to get rid of all the mods because they see them as dangerous. The mods, like I said, have mind powers, things like telepathy. They can talk to each other in their mind, empathy, they're empaths, they can feel emotions, they can make people do things, they can get in their minds, they can read their minds, things like that. So they see them as dangerous. What I think that this book does really well as well, on that note, is talk about otherness, talk about people that are different and how fear breeds hate. And I think it's a very relevant conversation, particularly in today's world. It always has been, but unfortunately it's still very relevant. So I think it does a really good job of that. And if you want to read more into that, I think it's just, apart from the fact that it's a great story, that is there. But you have our main character, Ren, who something happens at the beginning of the book. Her uncle is discovered as a mod and a member of the resistance, because obviously whenever you have an oppressed group, you have a resistance fighting against the army and the government. And he is put in front of a firing squad. Ren is not able to save him. She, however, is then taken to the army headquarters, and they give her a choice. She can go to a work camp, or she can kind of go into this military training to join the Silver Elite, which is kind of the like special ops elite forces in the military. Ren is very good at shielding. She's also one of the few people that when she uses her powers, you can't see it. So again, in this world, when you use your powers, your veins go silver so people can see it, but it doesn't happen to her. So she's special in some way. We know that she kind of has powers, but she has like another level, right? And she obviously doesn't want to join the military that is hunting down her fellow mods and who unalived her uncle. But she doesn't really have much of a choice. She joins, and what I actually enjoyed was her trying to fail out in the beginning because she's trying so hard to be bad. And her commander, Cross, hello Cross, I love the romance in this. I love Cross. Will not stand for it. He's like, girl, you can try as hard as you want. You're not failing out. Sorry. And she kind of they go through all this training. I loved all those scenes. I think Danny Francis did a great job in pacing this book. The minute you start to go, ooh, it's the same, then something happens, and I love it. The end of this book, I was like, I absolutely will be reading book 2. This is an easy 5. This is a Highway to Hell currently in my Highway to Hell. Not quite Satan Deer, but it's up there. I had the best time reading this book. Yeah, there were some things I saw coming, some things I didn't. Like I said, there's a character at the end who I really love. I'm not going to say more than that. Oh, I thought this is good. I definitely think that this is worth a read if you like any of those things and any of those tropes. Also, enemies to lovers, true, because Cross is the son of the general in this world. So he and his father and his army are literally trying to unalive her. And she should not have the special feelings for Cross. So really, 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 really enjoyed this. Then, from a super hyped, super known book to one I haven't heard a lot of people talking about, but I think it deserves some more hype. This is This Monster of Mine by Shalina Abiyaskara. This is so good. This was so good, but I didn't expect to love it that much, okay? Should you read it? Maybe. And I'll say this, and I say maybe because even though I loved it, I don't know if it's going to be for everyone. So this is based on kind of ancient Rome and judges and trials. So you have our main character, Sarai. The opening of this book is very dark. This book has very dark leanings to it. That I will say, and this is probably why I'm saying it's not necessarily for everyone, but if you can handle it, it has a real darkness to it. It opens up where you have a girl who's being attacked, very brutally attacked, and then she's thrown off a tower in the capital of this world. And she lands at the bottom and everybody thinks she's gone, right? She literally has been shattered by being attacked and thrown off this tower. Then you kind of skip to present day and you realize that this girl actually survived. And she is Sarai, and she's working as a waitress in a tavern in the north. And she's using magic. Now, there is magic, there's rune magic, and different kinds of magic in this world. And she's using this rune magic to kind of hide the fact that the healers had to put her together piece by piece. So if you look at the cover here, you see those lines there. She was literally shattered, right? And they had to kind of piece her together. So she tries to hide that from people because people stare at her and she gets enough crap. But you also realize that the reason she was in the capital was she wanted to be a pedagogue, which is like a assistant to the judges in this world. But you've got to go through like 4 years of training at the academy. So there's a dark academia vibe to this as well, to become one of these, which she doesn't have the money for, can't do. And then someone comes in to the tavern and says, actually, we're in need of pedagogues because they are dying by presumably their own hand and nobody wants to be one anymore. Surprise. And she's like, me, this life here is terrible. I'll go do that. And you also realize the reason she wants to go, other than the fact that, hey, she's getting out of her shitty life in the north, is she wants to know what happened to her, because her memory of that night is pretty much gone, is very foggy. She can remember bits and pieces and dreams, but she doesn't really know who did this to her, what happened to her. And she thinks if she goes and works for the judges, she'll have access to the records and she will know who did this to her. So it's also, in a way, a crime thriller. And all of these things came together to form this incredible book. There is also a romance between her and her judge, which I loved. Again, there's some twists and turns, machinations in this world, things that are going on, good versus evil, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys. It's not everything as it seems. There's a lot to make you think and wonder about the storyline. So a bit like with Silver Elite, but I loved this. I kind of immersed myself in this world and I didn't want to pick my head up the entire time. I loved it, but like I said, I don't know if it is for everyone. It may be something like, if you like The Will of the Many, that sort of thing. If you like mythology, Greek mythology, Roman mythology retellings. But I just thought this was fantastic and I don't hear enough people talking about it. And then another book that I thought was fantastic is A Directory of Swans by A.B. Paarnik. A.B. Paarnik is slowly becoming one of my, well, not even slowly, quickly becoming one of my favorite autobi authors. She's released 2 books. They are Where the Dark Stands Still, which is based on like Polish mythology and fairy tales. And then this one, Treachery of Swans, which is kind of loosely based on Swan Lake, and is also a sapphic love story, which is beautiful. This book, the way that A.B. Paarnik writes both of her books, is with this kind of delicious, dark fairy tale lean to it. I think if you love Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reid, if you like Ava Reid, Alexis Henderson's writing, even T. Kingfisher's writing, it's just beautiful. It's sumptuous. Holly Black, it has, to me, it's the closest to Juniper and Thorn, which is my Satan tier. One of my, like, Juniper and Thorn is like the book for me. I adore it. It is very dark fairy tale, magic, that kind of thing. So what is this one about? This one is about our main character, who, God, I forget her name. That's really bad. Is it Odile? Yes, it is Odile. Our main character, Odile, who is the adopted daughter of the owner of the theatre in this world. This is kind of set in France. So he is also a mage, but one that's kind of lost most of his power. So in this world, magic was abundant, but then Morrigan, the goddess, kind of abandoned them through circumstances. And now they have some rune magic, they have potion magic, but they don't have access to their full magic. Except the king has a special crown. And the crown is supposed to be like almost holding or housing all of the magic, and has also kind of captured Morrigan in it. So our mage, her father, wants to get his hands on this crown to unlock his magic. So they've come up with this scheme that Odile will take the place of Marie, who is a Dauphine, a noblewoman who is slated to be the favorite to marry the prince. So the idea is that Odile will take on her face and body through magic and go to the ball and convince the prince to marry her. So she'll have access to the palace and access to the crown. Now, the way they do this is really cool. She wears this kind of owl pendant, and the magic is in this pendant. Whenever she puts the pendant on, she becomes Marie outwardly, and poor old Marie turns into a swan. Yep, she's out by the lake, flapping the wings. Yep. And that's kind of the Swan Lake part of it. It's really cool. I love it. But also, once Odile gets to the palace, she realizes not all is as it seems, and she actually has to end up teaming up with Marie. And it's their love story as well. Now, the cover of this book, it says, once I wanted to ruin her, and then it says, now I want to save her. And it's just, I mean, this book itself is beautiful. I'm really glad I got this copy. But this is so, so good. Like I said, beautiful. Should you read this? Yes, if you like dark fairy tales, if you like that kind of writing, if you want something that's just going to be very immersive, I think this will be a great spooky season read as well, in a more gothic fairy tale way. And if you want a good sapphic love story and you like swans, she your girl. And then finally, I won't go on too much about it because everybody, their uncle and their dog and their parakeet has gone on about this book, but it is Taylor Jenkins Reid's Atmosphere. Again, great version of this. This is fantastic. Again, this is a sapphic love story set in the 80s around the space race and around the first women that are going to be astronauts and then go into space. Most people I know really love this. Some people didn't. They're wrong. But I think that this is a super fun, emotional, but also I like the bits about the space training. There's bits in space which I loved. Made it feel like a film. It's very cinematic. If someone doesn't pick this up as a film or a miniseries, I'm going to eat my ribbon, okay? Because they will, trust me. I can see the whole thing in my head. You also have this kind of love story is a love story between Joan and Vanessa, who are both on this program. And then you have all these external influences in terms of the society at the time. Still, even in the 80s, it wasn't the done thing. And they are basically told by NASA that they can't be together because gay relationships aren't a thing. And so you have that, and you have everything that's going on with them and their family personally and all the other people's relationships. But like I said, you also have the train bit of it, which I loved, and you also have the space bit of it, which I loved. I think this is great. I think if any of those topics interest you, absolutely read it. This was an easy 4.5 to 5-star read for me. Really, really enjoyed it. Loved Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. Really easy to write, easy to get through. There you go. That's my 5 cents. I've been talking a lot. If you're here for this long, leave me a swan emoji and let me know your thoughts, feelings on these books. What new books have you read? What are you excited about reading? What do you want me to read? And I will speak to you all again in part 2. Bye.